In this video, I'm going to be looking at the Liverpool team from the mid-90s, aka the Spice Boy era. I'm going to be looking at how the term came about, who contributed to it, was the title deserved, and how close were they to being actual genuine title challengers. I should say off the bat, this is very much armchair research that I've done. And to be honest, just being the age that I am in my 30s.
We're in our 30s now.
Well, I'm only just 30. Are you must 39?
No, both in our 30s, is the fact.
I just have a general interest in all things 90s. First of all, where did the term come from? It was coined by the Daily Mirror, the prestigious Daily Mirror, amid tabloid rumours that Robbie Fowler was dating Emma Bunton, aka Baby Spice from the Spice Girls. It wasn't true. Shocker, I know. This is what they wrote in it. This is how you know it's bollocks. A pal tells me, this was in the article, a pal tells me Emma really became interested in Robbie when they met a second time at Liverpool's 2-1 victory over Arsenal. Now, that game may ring a bell because that was the game where Fowler was brought down by Seaman and then said, no, it's not a penalty, it's not a penalty. And apparently Emma Bunton was smitten at his honesty. I mean, I was too, let's face it, we all were. It's just one of the many reasons why he's still alive, but he missed the penalty. He said he didn't miss it on purpose, but it allowed Jason McAteer to score his first goal for Liverpool. But it wasn't just Spice Boy. The term broadened to, it was Fowler, McAteer, Collymore, Scales, Redknapp, James, McManaman. They were all guilty of spicing up their life, according to the tabloids. So in the mid-90s, there was a huge influx of TV and marketing revenue from the new and sexy Premier League. And a lot of the younger, good-looking lads were swept up in endorsement deals. Not just Liverpool, but on Liverpool's end, you had McAteer doing Head and Shoulders.
Anti-dandruff formula. Great-looking hair that's also dandruff-free. Jason knows you can have it all. New look wash and go anti-dandruff.
David James was an Armani underwear model. But you had the United boys as well, Giggs and Beckham and all that sort of stuff. So it was everywhere. But the reason why I think it sticks with Liverpool, and we'll get to it later in the video, the reason why it didn't stick with United is because, as much as I hate to admit it, they were winners and they won. They were winning leagues, winning cups, you know. And even John Scales would say they'd go out on the town in Manchester and they'd meet up with the United lads, and Roy Keane would be giving stick to McAteer and Phil Babb from Liverpool because they were Ireland teammates, and he said there was a weird macho passive aggressive thing going on. I'd say Roy Keane absolutely hated Jason McAteer. I mean, there's such chalk and cheese. He wasn't that complimentary about him in his book. And I always remember that challenge. They had some challenge in a league match. And, it's a great fuck off, I have to say. But he was giving it the whole, put it in your book. Teammates. It helped a lot of the young lads, the class of 92. It helped them all stay on track, because they had great senior players in the team. And Liverpool did have that, but at that time, they were very much a team in transition. Souness essentially cleared out a lot of the senior members of the squad. And to be fair, Souness, when he came back, he was an early adapter of, the whole sports science, sports nutrition, psychologists analysing your mental state and all this sort of stuff that is just part of the game now. But back then it was very much a boozy, lads, let's have another one sort of culture. And so he got loads of pushback off a lot of the senior players because they were like, sorry, isn't your nickname Champagne Charlie?
Young good players. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, I'm going to tell you what you're talking about. Where did you manage? I didn't manage anywhere. I managed to stay alive for 63.5 years.
How does Souness diplomatically get around these issues? He cleared out the squad.
Get out.
Get out. I mean it.
In his 3 years at the helm in Liverpool, a lot of changes happened. He brought in, I think, 15 players. He shipped out 21, and some of the players that he shipped out were the very players that he brought in. The boot room got demolished in like '93. Now, although some people thought that was Souness's doing, apparently that wasn't his request, but it changed from the boot room to a press room or something like that. The boot room was this famous institution almost where they would discuss tactics, they would train in new managers, and it was synonymous with the Liverpool way, that they sort of promoted from within, people who got the ethos and all that sort of stuff. So when that went, that was a big change as well. So anyway, Souness cleared house, and then he was cleared out himself. But in came Roy Evans. Roy Evans was a product of this infamous boot room. He learned under Shankly himself. But I remember when Evans came in, and I could be wrong on this, but I always kind of viewed him as a bit of a hands-off manager. He kind of reminds me of, you know, that teacher that you'd have in school that he kind of let you just mess. Sometimes he'd give a roar, but you'd be like, shut up, sir. Maybe I'm being harsh on Evans, but that was the impression I got. Let me know. Let me know in the comments if I'm dead wrong about that. Underachievers. As I recall, for as long as I've been a Liverpool fan, up until the Klopp era, inconsistency has just been the killer. And they were probably at their most inconsistent around this time, because they had some great players in their squad, but the results are just so scattered. So let's have a look at how some of the seasons went in football in terms in the Spice Boy era. So 94-95, we finished 4th. That was the year Blackburn won the title. And this is where the Spice Boy stuff started to creep in. I remember, I think it was like 3 games to go in the season. They lost to Aston Villa, and it had transpired that Robbie Williams was on the coach on the way up to Villa. And people were kind of a bit like, it's weird. He was actually friends with Rob Jones, of all people. So we finished 4th, qualified for the UEFA Cup, and of course we won the prestigious Coca-Cola Cup against Bolton Wanderers.
Matthews for Ian Rush. It's Liverpool again.
At the tender age of 9, I remember that game very well. I think we signed McAteer off the back of that as well. So decent season, European qualification, and a domestic trophy. So 95-96, how did that go? This season I always view as a real sliding doors season, because by January of this season we were joint second on goal difference with United. We were 9 points behind Newcastle, booked a spot in the FA Cup final, and we were pushing towards the end of the season. If you remember, of course, that's the infamous Newcastle 4-3. Brilliant. And at that stage, that's late in the season. After that result, we were only 5 points off top spot, and we had an FA Cup final. So we were on for a double that year. And I say we, I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm going to say we. So, big win against Newcastle. Surely 3 days later against lowly, struggling Coventry would be a walk in the park.
That's what you think, I got 2 words for you.
So that was our title hopes dead. John Scales said, "It was a shambolic display. One extreme to the exact opposite. It was terrible, I was terrible. Roy can't take the blame for that. Individually, we all made errors. Certain things just shouldn't have happened. Robbie Williams was on the coach, maybe more than once. Why? Robbie was a great lad and we had some laughs. But he was going through his exit from Take That. His drink and drug problems were well known. How can you have someone in that situation on the coach going to games? Why the hell was that allowed to happen?" It fueled the whole Spice Boy thing. We all hated the tag, but the truth always hurts, doesn't it? I know I could have done more to avoid it. All the boys could have. So, fairly honest from Scalesy. But all hope wasn't lost. We still had an FA Cup final, and the boys arrived in style.
Razor. Just go straight off the catwalk. Let's hope it don't rain, eh? We will be in trouble.
And this is peak Spice Boy, really. This is where the term really stuck, I think. It became synonymous with style over substance, really. That, like, they think they're the fucking shit. They're showing up in these Armani suits. It was David James's idea, because he had the Armani deal.
See if you remember this photo. Remember
God
those?
almighty. Why did they do that?
When was that?
At the 96 Cup final at Wembley. I said to Brian Kidd, 1-0. But you know, the most telling part of it is this. Roy Evans and Ron Moran had black suits on. I think they were embarrassed. Liverpool Football Club is a great club of history. They've won the European Cup more times than Manchester United. Between Manchester United and Liverpool, they've won more trophies than any club in Britain. That didn't represent Liverpool.
And they showed up wearing these suits and played terrible and lost.
James gets there just first. Cantona! There is to be a memorable end to a poor cup final.
Absolutely dull game. And I remember being like, I think I was 10, and what a bullshit goal. I mean, a perfectly legitimate goal from Cantona. James didn't cover himself in glory. How did it get through, everyone? Still annoyed about that. And I remember I was 10, and my mate, and Jorlo, if you're watching, I'm talking about you. I was watching it in his house, and he was a United fan, I was a Liverpool fan. And it was the first time I'd experienced like a United fan like celebrating in my face. And I remember thinking like, I don't like this. Devastated. My first real devastation as a Liverpool fan. Jamie Redknapp describes it as the worst game of the season, admitting that the suit idea was collectively the biggest mistake we ever made. And Redknapp says something about this game which I think is very, very true. Redknapp thinks that if they'd have gone on to beat Man United that year, the mentality around the club would have changed. Had we won the FA Cup that year, I honestly think that we'd have gone on and dominated for a long time, like Man United did. It was a pivotal couple of weeks. Look at me when I'm talking, yeah? It was a pivotal couple of weeks because it was the first time the Nevilles, David Beckham, Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes experienced success with the first team. They got a taste for it and carried on. It gave them I'm going to stop with the accent. It gave them the confidence to grow. We had the potential to be a really great side too, but we never experienced that taste by beating a big side in a final. We beat Bolton in the League Cup final a year earlier, but we were expected to win that one. We needed the experience of beating one of our rivals to a trophy, but it never happened. It's a frustration of mine. Even talking about it now, it makes me angry. We were close. And I do think he has a point. I mean, momentum is a very powerful thing. You look at Leicester a few years ago that they had no business being winning the league. But you know, you build up a head of steam and it just keeps you going. That's why you get all these great unbeaten runs and all this sort of stuff. And I think we would have had real momentum, especially if we'd have got our shit together in the league as well. But it wasn't to be. 96-97 then came around. We finished 4th on goal difference. This is the killer as well, right? We finished 4th on goal difference, joint amount of points with 2nd and 3rd. We were 7 points behind United, who won it. But look how we finished. A home loss to Coventry. Again. Home loss to United. Loss to Wimbledon. And a draw with Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, a win against Sheffield Wednesday on the last day of the season would have put us in the Champions League. Couldn't do it. And then 97-98 again. Fowler got injured, but that was Owen's breakthrough season. But again, finished 3rd. Semi-final of the League Cup. Just not quite at that high level. The Spice Boys era effectively ended about a month after Roy Evans' departure in 98. Houllier came in as co-manager. Oddly enough, didn't work out. Evans left. And then, so that was around November. Then the Christmas party happened that December. And it was all over the papers. So he made some drastic changes. He sold Paul Ince, who was the captain at the time. And Carragher himself, who was the one caught up in the storm, said it was just night and day when Houllier came in. And that's probably telling as to, you know, Gerrard and Carragher in particular have a real fondness for Houllier, and they seem to go back to him as being their favourite manager to work with, and the manager who developed them into the players that they became.
You know, at times you need guidance, you need help, and he was just a guy who was always there, and his attention, we always say attention to detail with the great managers, but I'd never seen anything like that with Gerard Houllier, certainly before and since. He was adamant at the start when he first came in that I had to change my ways, and not just me. British players, the way we did things, had to move at the times. The game was changing, it was getting faster. Some people didn't listen, but some people did. I'm just thankful that I listened to Gerard Houllier in those early years, because without him, I don't think I'd have played for Liverpool for that long and enjoyed my career so much as well. So I owe him everything. For any Liverpoolian in their 30s or 40s, Gerard Houllier was the start of the rebirth of Liverpool getting back to being successful in Europe and at home and winning trophies.
Conclusion. I think it's a shame Fowler got caught up in it, because he was a 30-goal-a-season player. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even have got anywhere near where we got. It's a shame he wore the suit. I mean, I've worn shit suits in my time, but like, I don't still hear about it 30 years later. I think players like McAteer, James, Scales, maybe Redknapp, may have deserved it a bit more. Redknapp was probably the best player out of those, so he definitely did more on the pitch, but ultimately it's seen now as a symbol of getting too big for your boots. And I think it's a far cry from where Liverpool is now, and let's be bloody thankful that it is. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if I got anything wrong or if I missed anything. I know you will. If you haven't already, have a look back at my video on why do Liverpool fans hate Michael Owen, somewhere around here. Give us a like and a subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the video, and I'll see you next time.